Brilliant. Well, welcome to How to Market Your Business. Today it's quite a nice session, this, because it's going to be all about marketing your business, and the idea is that you'll leave with some really quick and simple things that you can do to help your businesses. We'll look at customer avatar, so who your customer is. We'll come up with the idea of how to love your customers, which sounds dodgy, but it's actually a really nice marketing acronym. Some unique selling points, storytelling, how to share stories, and some tips before leaving you guys to go on your merry way. So my name's Richard. I work for Smarter Society as one of the mentors here. But I've spent my entire career in marketing. So I've worked on Sainsbury's marketing team, I've worked on launching gift cards in the UK, and I've also worked on lots of brands, Adidas, Jack Daniels, and just lots of chocolate, Hershey, Godiva, Cadbury, but I think I like the whiskey the most. So I'm just a marketing geek. I love marketing, and I think what's really interesting is lots of people make it really, really complicated. But actually, when you look at what marketing is and make it really, really simple, it is, what are your stories and ideas that make you guys interesting, and how do you share it with other people? And when you think of marketing in that way, then all of a sudden you can do some really interesting stuff that doesn't have to cost a fortune. And I think what's really interesting, you'll have lots of people, normally website people say, right, you need a website, you need to do SEO, you need to spend this money. There's lots you can do for free. And personally, I don't like spending money on anything except for shoes. So we often think about target customers, and we start asking them the question, what does your customer look like? And I think what's really interesting is that different businesses have different customers, and some people's customers will look like that on a typical kind of London street. Others will look suited and booted. And I think what's really interesting is who one person's customer is might not be somebody else's. And actually, there is a question around, can you have more than one target customer? And I think what's really interesting, if you think about your businesses, are all your customers the same? I suspect not. And I always ask the question, how many target customers do British Airways have? Which is probably not a good question after all the queues at Heathrow, but we'll play along with this. So how many different customers do you think British Airways have typically?
2.
Go on.
Business, consumer. So you have
business and economy.
Yeah.
Fine. Quite possibly, they would argue
Thousands.
that they have 5. They would say they've got economy, premium economy, business first, and then they would argue that they've also got cargo. And I think what's really interesting, if you think about your businesses, say in a restaurant, you might have a totally different customer at lunchtime that you might have in the evening, so to speak. And again, if you think about it, it's possible at the same building that you've got multiple different customers coming in and out of it. And I think the more you can understand who your customers are, the easier it becomes to tell them your stories, which is the simple version of marketing. So I like the idea of creating a customer avatar. And this is kind of marketing jingo, but it kind of makes sense. And what a customer avatar is, it's kind of like an informal description of a person or a group of people that are your customers. So we'll talk about age, it could be how much money they have, lifestyle, attitude, what they wear, all different factors that make up your typical customer. Now you can have multiple ones. So if you think about British Airways, somebody in first class is probably going to be in a suit and have shoes that are worth more than my car. And then somebody in economy is going to be miserable waiting for their bags. It is when you start to build up all of those things that make up a customer, you start to be able to think about the stories that can relate to them. Once you understand that, then you can start thinking about the products that you can talk to them about. So if we're talking about a beauty salon, let's say you've got somebody who's got a wedding coming up, you know, it's a slightly different kind of thing. You don't want the hair, they'll want everything done. But actually, could you do the whole of the bridal party? And then once you've got them in, and you've done a good job for them, how can you get them back for their monthly appointments? You know, because then they go from being a wedding customer to being a totally different customer. But by understanding what they want, how they shop, why they work with you, then you can understand the marketing that works towards them. So, typical customer avatar, and I thought I'd make this a really, really simple one. If you start thinking about this to your business, what's the typical age? Gender, very relevant. It could be potentially be religion. Do they have a family? What car do they drive? What income do they have? Where do they do their supermarket shopping? I really like this idea, and I often think about this going back to British Airways. If they're an economy passenger, they might shop in Tesco's or Sainsbury's, but if they're a first class shopper, it's Waitrose and M&S, darling. That kind of whole, when you start thinking about what supermarkets people shop in, it's a really good way of building up a customer avatar. How and where do they socialise? What job do they do? What are their fashion and food tastes? Where do they go for their holidays? And all of a sudden, you start building up a picture of who your customer is. When you've got that picture, it makes it a lot easier to talk to them. And then some different ways of thinking about this, because that's all very well. But one of the other ways of thinking about it are, what are the goals and values of your customer? Again, taking the beauty salon example, they want to feel fantastic and look great when they leave. You know, where do they get their information from? Where do your customers go to find their news? Where do they go? Do they go on social media? Or do they go to the Yellow Pages or Google? Where do they go? How old are they? Where do they live? What are their pain points? This is a really nice question. Why do they need or want your products and services? If it's a restaurant, oh, I'm hungry, I need something quickly. Okay, great, I understand that. So where are they going to be? Where can I talk to them? What motivates them? Hi, welcome. So what motivates your customers? If they're motivated by looking fantastic, I can help you with that. Or if it's motivated by, I've got this beautiful picture, I need it reframing. You know, what are the things that really gets them going? And then, what do they do? And what stops them from doing things with you or with other people? And you start asking these questions, you can very quickly build up a picture of who your customer is, and then you can think about the products that you sell to them and how to talk to them about what it is you do. So, I may have borrowed this off a friend who works at Weetabix. And this is kind of, they pay thousands of pounds for this kind of research. And what's really interesting about this is they talk about the branded budget buster. And they've looked at the TV programmes they watch, X Factor, Emmerdale, the TV channels they watch. So you can see very family orientated, CBeebies, ITV2, CITV. They've all got Netflix. They often have Sky. They shop in Tesco, Asda, Iceland. But they're also in Aldi and Pound Stretcher. They're not so bothered about the health aspect, but it's about convenience and quick and being short of money. And you can see some of their competitors. And they've analysed that this is the percentage of the market. So this is a really detailed pen portrait, a customer avatar. Yours can be literally a piece of paper with all of those ideas of where are they, what do they do, and what TV do they watch. And then all of a sudden, when you understand them, you can start telling them about what it is you do. But you can also speak to them where they're at. So for these guys, you know for a fact that doing an advert during X Factor is a good idea, or you know that they're going to be on Sky, for instance, so you know where to target them. If we know that your shoppers or your consumers spend all day on Facebook, then we need to be on Facebook to talk to them. If we know that they're in a hurry, do we drop a leaflet around everybody's house in the area? And all of a sudden, when you understand who they are, it makes it easier to talk to them. So, for the next 5-10 minutes, just have a little chat around all of us, introduce ourselves, and then we can start coming up with how can we build your customer avatars, which is literally just a couple of minutes on everybody. Understand what it is your business does, and then if we can start to build that customer avatar. So now the awkward bit, where everybody has to say hello, their name and their business. Sorry, you're sat nearest to Rich.
Yeah, story of my life. My name is Beth Grant, and I know Robert over there from a very long
We're
time.
oldies, we're very old.
Yeah, yes, Robert's leaving now with a black eye. I run a picture framing business on the corner of West Hendon by the Co-op. We have customers that come into our shop, and we have customers that we do framing for other shops. So we're usually pretty busy at all times. One of the things that help us is Google, because when a customer goes out and says, "Oh, thank you for my lovely picture," I say, "Will you put a review on Google?" And that's how very often they find us. They see that we're got 5-star, and there's a few, modestly I say, rave reviews, and some very nice reviews, and they decide to come to see us. We have one very major problem, which I was going on at the last meeting, which is parking. We really have a major problem. That is our main, this is all great, but when a customer comes around and can't park their car, it doesn't matter any of this, because, they have to drive away and say, well, we have to find somewhere where we can park, and usually they've got a fairly largest picture. And it's not young people that come in on the whole. They're not the ones that frame pictures. They're more middle-aged or older.
So it's quite interesting. So first of all, on the parking issue,
That's the major one.
we are, Brian is the key contact there, and we are regularly talking to the council about that, because that's the feedback we get, not just from yourself, but from so many people here. We get that feedback. I think what's interesting, what you're saying, is actually you've got 2 different shoppers, or 3 different shoppers. You've got people that are passing by, that come into the shop.
Yeah.
You've also got people that drive to you.
Yeah.
So if you start thinking about, they found you either via Google or recommendation, but they need to drive to you. They're normally got a little bit of money into art, they like things being framed, but they need somewhere to pick it up. And then you've also got the customer that is another picture shop as well. And I think that they're your customer avatars, and to make your life easier, when you start talking to those 3 different groups with your marketing, that will certainly help. And I think we'll definitely communicate to the council that to make it easier for your shoppers, they need parking.
It's not just easier, it's essential.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yes, it's not easier, it's essential.
No, I agree.
Because, without being able to park and to take out a picture or rolled up, or a picture that's got broken glass,
Makes life very hard.
then they'll drive away.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ioana Dicu. I have a beauty salon. I'm here on the corner of the West End and Broadway. I came in this area 3 years ago. My opinion, sorry for my English.
That's fine.
Actually, now I'm in share with my colleagues. The services, it's very good quality. All in all, my colleagues do
High quality.
yes, high quality jobs. Like hairdressing, nails. I do all facial beauty facial. But my opinion in the future, it's have employers. And the problem it's parking as well for my customers. And
So
I hope, yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. So the thing that you said about high quality,
Yes.
is that what your customers are after?
Yes.
and you said to me earlier that they're normally 25 to 50.
Yes.
What kind of jobs do you think they have? What kind of skills do they have? Your customers, are they professionals? Are they working mums, or is it a mixture?
No, moms, professionals, all the people.
Do they spend a lot of time on social media?
No, really, because I don't have much time.
No, but do your customers?
The customer, yes, yeah.
Fine, because that's what we're trying to do is.
Yes.
We'll send you all a copy of this presentation so you can build your own avatars in your own time. But what I want to do is find those 2 or 3 things from each of you where we start thinking about who our customers are and where they spend time, and then we can build from there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Daryl, I work at Bloomsbury Properties, blue building just on the corner there. So, I was trying to think of building the customer avatar. So for ourselves, because we work with different types of tenants, in terms of who they are, largely they're immigrants, so you come into contact with people who might be in a single parent family, maybe newly arrived. There are language barriers, and they get to know us through word of mouth in the local community.
So you're trusted?
Yeah, we do have a reputation in that way. In terms of things like whether they would have social media or anything like that, yes, more predominantly I would say in their own language, which can be something that we wouldn't have access to in a sense. We might not always have a native speaker for the particular country that they come from.
Right.
And my accent is no help either. They're expecting the Queen's English, they get this. But in terms of what they're looking for, they're looking to build a base.
Right.
Regardless of how long they've been in the country, or whether they're working or raising a family or any different combination, they're looking for security of one place, preferably within reach of their own community or families. Depending on situation, it can be a need where they need to be close to some religious building, whether it be like the mosque across the road or something like that, or a church. Again, it's part of the community setup. In terms of where they would purchase stuff, I mean, you know, it's local. I'm not saying that they wouldn't go to a Tesco's or an Aldi.
No, but that's fine. If they shop locally and they shop in the community, that's fine. That's that you get an impression of who they are. And what's interesting is you know your customer pretty well and you know what they're after. And I think once you start to build that out, then it becomes, because obviously with marketing you want to look after your current customers, bring your lapse back, and hopefully bring some new ones. And actually once you understand them and you understand their needs, then you can help either talk to them or build your proposition.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that you know them pretty well, I think where there's an interesting opportunity is how can you communicate to them in their first language? And if that's not English, you know, are there different ways of doing that? And I know that there is some resource in Barnet for translation, for instance.
Okay.
And then when you start thinking about where do they congregate and what are they after, then you can start thinking about the right marketing to give to them. But also, we'll come on to storytelling in a minute. Your story could be, actually I'm local, I understand this area, I can help you, which is a really, really great story. And we were just talking before we started, and actually if you said to somebody, right, this laptop is an A1000 chip with 300 gigabytes and a WAP modem, I've got no idea what I'm talking about because it's tech. But actually, if you turn around and say, well, this laptop is really quick and allows me to talk to anybody in the world and to build a website from anywhere, oh, I get it. So what you do is you start telling them not what it is, but how you and why you can help them.
Yeah.
And I think when we go into storytelling, it's a really, really nice way of, you know, putting yourself across in a different way that's easier for people to understand rather than saying, right, well, we do property management or whatever. Actually, we know this area, we know how we can help you because we live and breathe, we're part of the community. And then all of a sudden, because you know the avatar, you know, okay, well, we know that they're located here, so we'll do this type of marketing towards them, but actually these are the stories we're going to tell, and hopefully that's sort of part of the idea of this session. Thank you.
My name is Ernie. I'm from the boat shop.
Welcome.
And I've got to just say, I've only got a few minutes here, so I should be as brief as I can. We no longer do retail. Just a very brief history. In 1992, the London Borough of Barnet, in their infinite wisdom, came down to the traders and said, West End is the subject of a major rebuild, complete rebuild. And within the next 20 odd years, the place will be totally different. And the big problem at that meeting was parking. Okay. Major problem. And London Borough of Barnet said, you've got to bear with us, once the regeneration starts, the London Borough of Barnet will provide better parking. Now, at that stage, we had a car park here, where we are now. So we had 90 odd cars gone. So from a retail point of view, purely retail point of view, not for this gentleman here, but right, if you haven't got parking, you haven't got customers. My business has failed because of that, so we no longer do retail. So
your customer now is who?
My customer now is, because we still use the yard and we produce a product, I actually have no problems with customers. We have, you know what it's like in life, you can't be dogmatic, you have to be pragmatic. So at the point in which the rates went up and our client base just went down and we had all these other issues with parking, we had no alternative but to lease the property to a hairdresser, to a cafe, to people that people can walk to. And it was always thought that that business would survive better with 2,000 odd people living around us. Whereas my business is in the marine trade and none of my customers are local.
So your customers from all over the country?
Yeah.
How do they find you?
We've been here for a long time. We make pretty good product, and it's in the marine trade. It's all hand and mouth.
So word of mouth is really, really important to you. And what's your typical customer look like? In terms of, are they well off? Are they all around the UK?
They're
is
all
it
around
global?
the UK. The majority of them are quite well off. A lot of them are sailing clubs.
Okay.
They do vary greatly. But the only thing in terms of the big picture that slightly concerns me is there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 traders here.
Yeah.
For something that should be really, really important.
Well, one of the things that we're doing with this is we're recording this, and this is going to be emailed to everybody who's part of this programme, because, you know, Barnet...
As a traders association, we ran a traders association for 15 odd years. We used to get a really good turn, and the most successful period of that was when we had a town centre manager working in the London Borough of Barnet, supporting us.
We will obviously feed that back to Barnet. I know if you speak to Brian, he's got some links into the council, and I know that we listened to all of you guys at the time. Our job is to help you. That's it. That's why we're here.
Which is why this place should be full.
And
a lot of people need support.
That's why we're here. But what we also do, as well as giving you guys like the marketing information and all the support that Brian and his team have been providing, is that we also talk to Barnet on a fortnightly basis, and obviously we feed everything back to them. And obviously this has been recorded, and we'll send a copy to them as well, so they know the depth of feeling, and they know where they need to support you, and that's what we can offer you. We do listen and we do pass it on, and I know how hard Brian and his team have been working to try and make improvements for all of you.
Could I just interrupt? First of all, I'd just like to mention that Robert, because our business was opposite Robert's, and Robert was very much the main person in this area that was very keen on neighbourhood and working for the local shop. He was yes.
But the turnover in units in the last 20 has been horrendous. You move in. I mean, initially when we started, I wanted to see a wet fish bar and somebody that did sewing. And do you know what? we actually
Got it.
physically have that now. Isn't it fantastic? Really?
Yeah.
And
So,
the other thing I wanted to ask, I think I'm right in thinking that the council, the local council, it's the only one that changed hands, isn't it? The local
I think
borough.
Wandsworth changed
Yes,
as well.
it went
No, no,
from
Wandsworth-
Conservative to Labour.
Yes.
Correct.
Now, how does that affect us? Because, you know, this is fine, but, you know, we have to, you're working, you know, that comes back, this is great, but it comes back to working with the council. Now, what's the difference in what we're working now with the new council against the council before?
To be honest with you, they're still adapting, so it's only changed hands in the
So
last
it's-
month.
yes.
It's still
Well,
in its
yeah,
early
I
stages.
think that's a
But
very
these-
important factor.
The programmes that have been put in place already, like this one, will carry on. At the moment, they're looking at other sources of funding to try and bring in, but it's still really, really early. Still
And what
really
will go
early.
out?
Don't know. Don't know
That's
yet.
an important factor, isn't it? I mean, that, you know, the council changing hands is in actual fact the most important factor of all,
And
isn't
I
it?
think I think they're still figuring out what that change looks like. But in terms of day to day, at the moment there is no difference. So the contact for the area remains the same, and I think it will take a little bit of time for that to implement. And obviously we can update you as we go.
Is this preempting that situation that can be changing, you know, that it may be totally, I mean, you know, there is Labour and Conservative is this
Got different ideas.
Different ideas. And is this at the moment too early to really...
It's too early.
you
It's
know,
too early. But what we do know is that they are. Sorry. We know that the team that we work with in Barnet, their job is to support local businesses, and they want to do as much as possible to support, and that's not going to change. And that, you know, that's why Brian and I are here. We're here to support you. Thank you. And
I've got to go, I'm really sorry, but thank you very
what I'll
much.
do, I'll get a copy of this email to you, and I hope it helps.
But I would say, fundamentally, over the years, we always do better under a Labour administration.
You what? So that,
We always do better under a Labour administration.
Yeah.
The
Of
shopkeepers.
course.
The shopkeepers.
Yes, of course.
So we'll see then.
So,
will
and if
see
you
then.
can organise a proper pucker town centre manager, that would be great.
And he's the bloke that was involved.
We had a chap called Alan Everett who was with us, and he's a very established person. And it's just like picking up a telephone, speaking to him, and him being able to say, yes, we can do that, no, we can't. It was that simple.
We'll feed that back.
Anyway, thank
And
you very much.
you know, as you know, Brian's in regularly, and
Yeah.
our role really is to support everybody here.
And it's our responsibility to support you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Cheers.
Thank you
Bye,
very much.
Robert.
Bye.
He did so much work, you know. It's amazing how much work Robert did. And he's a nag as well.
I think he can hear you.
I hope so.
He's gone now.
No,
You're in
I
a
hope
clip.
so. But he really did work hard for the
It's what you
community.
need.
And the
It's what you need in any
Yeah,
community.
he's the one.
We'll keep pushing.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hello, hi.
Hi.
My name is Perry and I own Vicky Jam in Donna. I'm very new to the area, so I don't know the name, but I'm just by Zaza Cafe.
Yes, you've just literally
Which
just
cafe? Which?
It's Zaza.
Next to Zaza.
Zaza. I
Oh,
think. well,
yes,
was
of
it
course.
the French
Oh,
shop?
yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
And how long have you been
Good
trading?
coffee.
It's second week now.
Second week.
Yeah,
Um,
very new.
So you're still learning what your customer looks like.
We are. I mean, you never know who it is, and it's everyone.
Everyone at the moment.
Have,
So everybody's sort of coming in, just, oh, you're new, we're going to come and
So
explore.
it's whoever's passing by, they're keen to, they just come in, ask, and we give pure beef doner.
It's the Don, is it Don?
Yeah,
Don?
It's
Yeah.
doner, it's beef, because what you get outside is usually like a mixture of
Lamb,
lamb,
yeah.
and what makes us different is our sauces. So beef can be a little bit dry, but it's the sauces that make it nice. So
I'm going
to
to
see you guys there.
hold on to that sauces, we'll come on to that. So, the there's an idea, now we know who our customers are, and we'll share this with you so you don't have to remember it. But there's a really nice acronym called Love Your Customers. So listen, really hear what they're saying. So from my perspective today, you guys have all said car parking, interaction with the council. We'll pass that on. That's our job. If you observe your customers, when you watch and learn, you can really learn from them. What do they do? Why do they do it? And how can you validate your customers? How can you make them feel good? How can you get them to, let's say with your new restaurant, if somebody puts something on social media, can you give them a little like and thank you? It goes a really long way. And then how can you engage with them? How can you have conversations with your customers? So like I said, if you're on social media or somebody leaves you a review on Google, really good free tip, somebody leaves you a review on Google, if you thank the customer, thank you for your 5-star review, not only does the customer feel fantastic, but Google goes, thank you very much, your account's active, we're going to pull you up the rankings. So the engage part of it is, all of these things are free, and it's really, really simple. But please engage with your customers. If they say something nice about you on social media, thank them. And if something's not perfect, then acknowledge it. Whether you apologise for it, that's kind of up to you individually, but always acknowledge it. And I always give the example, there's lots of restaurants that do it, and also lots of hotels. And sometimes you read the replies, they're quite funny. And how can you make your customers love you a little bit more? How can you solve their problems? And I love this as a marketing idea. So instead of selling to them, so a great example for yourself is that picture that looks fantastic. We'll help you hang it on the wall. It's as simple as that, because we'll put it in a frame. How can you build relationships? And that's what you need to do with your customers and yourself and all of you. How do you make your customers want to come back to you? As I always say, how do you get your customers to talk about you to their friends? And it's a really nice, free way of getting people
Don't you think
engaged.
these are all the things that I think we will do anyway?
Well,
I mean, what's the next step? I mean,
Wow.
We're now in the 21st century, and we all have this. We know, the basic things, and we've all been in business. I presume you were in business before. It's how we can go
take it to the next
step.
level.
Yeah,
So-
because I think we know the basic things. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here, would we?
Well, I think there's all.
I don't know. Do you
Oh no, I'm on my lunch break. I just wandered in.
You are.
I just wandered in. I thought they were selling free pints here.
Yeah. You were told there was going to be booze.
I know, I was fooled.
I talked him into it, it was my bad. Yeah.
I think with a lot of these ideas is that when you get really busy, that sometimes you can forget some of these things. And actually, when you go back to basics, that's what this is about.
Yeah.
We'll move on to unique selling points and storytelling.
Yeah.
But for me, it is when you really know your customer, when you validate them, then you can start having deeper conversations with them, and then you can get them to go from spending X, say the typical amount, to spending more. That's what it's about. And these are some of the questions. Where are your customers? There's lots and lots of different places they could be, but then there's also other places they could be. From your perspective, there could be things like Deliveroo or Just Eat. There's options such as eBay, Etsy, Gumtree, and it's how can you get your information out there. So there's lots and lots of different ways of doing this. And again, I put social media on there, which I think's a simplistic one, but an important one. Now, unique selling points. For me, I love these. What's unique about what it is you do? What makes you different? And why should people choose from you? And I love the way that you said our sources. So why are your sources unique?
There's a variety, there's different, some might like ketchup, but the other one might not, or some might like garlic and the other one...
Have you done testing on all of them?
We have, there's different, you need to try it.
How many different ones do you have?
We have
Roughly?
7.
7?
At the moment, yeah.
And you can do a combination of all of them?
I
So
mean,
actually-
there's some that go, they all go together, yeah.
So you've actually potentially got 42 different combinations, if not more. So if you had
Oh, with the...
Do you see what I mean?
Yes, yes, yes.
So we've actually got all those different combinations. So what's really interesting is when you know your unique selling point, is then you can start turning it into stories. And I've used this example of Jack Daniels. And what I love about this is, you know when you're on the tube, you see those really large Jack Daniels adverts and you see people stood there reading it. So storytelling is fashionable again. Thank you, Facebook. And the idea is, can you tell your stories in a true way? Can you give people reasons to have a conversation with you? If you think about your sources, for instance, well actually, we've got 7 different sources, but we've got 42 different combinations. So actually probably more than that, 7 by 7 by 7. I'm not going to do the maths.
That's a lot of napkins afterwards.
It is, and a lot of testing. But what's great is, you can then make your own content. So actually you could do, what's the best combination of sources on social media? You can have them all and you can get people to vote for them. Or you can start telling people stories. Or you can talk about why it is you do what you do. So your example would be, do you know what, my why is I want everybody who leaves my salon to look and feel fantastic. And you might turn around and say, well, what do you stand for? I stand for quality customer service, and then when you leave with us, you feel happy. And you could turn around and say, when you work with us, we help your paintings and pictures and shirts look fantastic. And then all of a sudden, you've got some great stories to tell. And these are all stories that are unique to you. And then you start communicating them with your customers. Now, how you go about that, there are so many different ways of communicating. And I've put them all on here. Now, some of these are going to be relevant to you, and others are going to be no point. But the idea of this is like there's a long list of things on here. Newspapers, radio, newsletters, PR, leaflets, brochures, direct mail, posters, websites, Google ads, signage, window displays, LinkedIn, Facebook, stickers, really old-fashioned. So there's a great restaurant in the middle of London called Chicken and Sours, and they give every single customer a little tattoo of a chicken. And what they do is, each week they
Where
get...
did I go?
You went to the local, I'm not going to go there. What they do each week is one person who puts their tattoo on Instagram, they pull out of a hat and they give them a free meal. But obviously everybody that puts the sticker and the tattoo on Instagram, it's free advertising. Really simple. And there's loads of other things you can do on here, from cold calling, local shows, networking, blogs, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest. Really interesting, 3rd biggest search engine in the world. So people go to Google, YouTube, somebody like yourself, all those wonderful pictures. You've got the Olympic Stadium on your wall. If you had a Pinterest page, it really, really pulls you up on Google. So these are all different ideas that you could do. My personal favourite is whatever works for you. And this is really interesting because you'll have lots of salespeople tell you, you need to do SEO, you need to do a website, you need to do this. And this is where marketing can get confusing. For me, you need to go where your customers are. So if you've got 25 to 50-year-old women, then potentially Facebook, Twitter, that's where they spend their time. So why would you do a radio advert? There's no point. And this is I think it's really interesting. There's lots of people who try and sell marketing services to you. I always think about, where are my customers? What are the stories that are unique to me? And how can I communicate to them? And that way you spend your money wisely. Or you do it for free, do it yourself. So a couple of tips. Have a marketing plan. So one of the things we're going to do is I'm going to email all of you a really simple document, which is a basic marketing plan, where you can put ideas on and start building out those stories and how you're going to communicate them. Know your customers. So again, you'll have a copy of this presentation so you can create your avatar. Pick your media, not for the salespeople, not for you. I love looking at Instagram because I like pictures of pink shoes, whiskey, and faraway places. Well, that's not necessarily going to work for everybody. So what you like, You almost have to appreciate that, but you need to do what your customers like more than what you like. Track it. So it's really interesting. If you do any marketing, I thought it was really interesting when we went into your store. You said, how did you find us? It's the oldest, best technique. Oh, I saw an advert for you in the newspaper, or I got a leaflet through the door. How can you track your marketing? And again, when you have a new customer come through, how did you hear about us? Oh, we got a referral. Great, because you might do a referral program. If you refer somebody to us, here's a £25 gift card for a local restaurant for each customer. Do you see what I mean? You pick the marketing that works for you. Social media, it's free. Use it. And just use lots of hashtags, please. And a couple of final thoughts. Where are your customers? What do you want to achieve from your marketing? And I think for all of you it's about sales and making people feel good. What's your content? Well, unique selling points. You know, if you've got somebody that's had a beautiful haircut, take a picture of it and put it online and inspire people. Your content, you can do a really great one. What is West Hendon's favourite sauce? And just get people to vote on it. And you've got loads of content. If you have got a budget for marketing, set one. Because otherwise you can spend more money than you know. And it can be a black hole. So set a budget and be really mindful of that. And just ask yourself, how can you stand out? What makes you different? So we talked about the carbon earlier. That's really cool, really new. Tell people about it. You're in the area. You've got 30, 40 years experience. You've got 7 different sauces, by 7, by 7, by 7, and your food's cooked fresh and it's all beef. Those are the things that give people a reason to interact and work with you. That's it, and that's sort of just some tips and tricks on marketing. Any questions or any thoughts?
Parking.
Is there anyone that sells parking? And how do we buy parking?